Hi, everyone. Welcome back to She Births Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Shell, and today's guest is Tong Ge.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Hi, Brooke. Thank you for inviting me.
So, can you tell my listeners what inspired you to write The House Filler and devolve into Chinese history?
This book is based on my grandmother's story.
Oh,
So I've been told this story since I was a child, mainly by my mother. And then later I have interviewed other family members and relatives and did tons of research. That's how this book was born.
okay. So, how did you approach blending historical events with Golden Phoenix' personal journey?
It's not hard because she personally lived through those events. And those events not only altered her journey, a life journey, but also decided her fate and her house, like her family members, other family members' fate. So it's not hard at all.
Oh, okay. Nice. Nice. So did your grandmother like keep a journal of all her stories that went on in her life?
No, she was illiterate.
Oh. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
because she was denied education when she was a child. Way back when, some parents, like lots of Chinese parents, believe girls did not need education because girls supposed to grow up and get married and
Oh.
become a housewife. So she was denied education. I heard most of her stories through my mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell us more about the significance of the title, The House Filler?
In Chinese culture, in the past, a woman who marries a widower is called a house failure.
Oh.
So for about 1,000 year, China has had a tradition of bending their daughters' feet because way back when a woman's beauty was not measured by her looks, but by the size of her feet. The
Oh.
tinier the feet, the more desirable. The ideal size is a 3 Chinese twin, which is about 4 inches long. And the little
Mhm.
girls needed to get their feet bound at age 4 or 5. Golden Felix, being a motherless child, didn't get her feet bonding process started until she was 6. So her feet was not ideal size of 3 twin water golden lily feet.
Mhm.
Her feet was 1 inch too long, and
Oh.
that's how she married. She missed her ideal marriage age, about
Um,
around 16 to 18. Another reason she married her ideal marriage age was because she was trained as a seamstress and later become a breadwinner of her family. So that's how her father kept her in the house for too long until
mhm.
she was 26. By then, she didn't have there's no, like, all the young men were married already. So she ended up marrying a widower. That's why she's called a house failure.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm
Yeah.
learning a lot because I remember, okay, on my feed, there was it was a post about Chinese culture of how they would like I wouldn't say like form their feet to make them look smaller, so it was like curved in, and they would put them in these little bitty shoes. And I
Yeah.
was like, I've always wondered why.
Yeah, because in Song Dynasty, about 1,000 years ago, there's an emperor, a Chinese emperor. He liked the tiny feet woman, and
Oh.
then first it started in a courthouse that all his concubines and the women in his palace start to bound their feet, and then that spread to ordinary people. So in order for girls to marry well, and their feet need to be bounded. For like a large feet for women was considered like ugly, basically. So ugly that you cannot marry properly. You may end up with marrying a peasant or laborer. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that tradition lasted for a very long time until uh, 1912. The
Oh.
uh, new republic government of China called for abolish of the foot binding practice, but it was very hard to get that carried out people resisted that. I know that the last case of the food banding was in China in a very remote area, a mountain area. That was happening in 1950s. Last food banding case, yeah, happened in the 1950s.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man. At first I thought it was a hoax, but wow, I'm learning a lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
if you Google, you can find those pictures of it's brutal because either like they only leave the girls' big toe free, or other four toes either broken or dislocated and folded underneath of their feet.
yeah. Yep, I
Um,
saw that.
Through bondage, it prevents the foot from growing, and that's greatly hindered their ability of moving around and run and jump or climb. They couldn't do that anymore.
Oh man.
That was horrible.
Man, I bet. So
Yeah.
how did Golden Phoenix's character evolve as you wrote her story?
Um, from like beginning, she was just a average little country girl who was obedient. Like the Chinese culture requires children to be, especially for women, for girls. So
Mhm,
when the girls were daughters, they supposed to obey their father, and
mhm,
when they married, they supposed to obey their husband. When they have son, when they become mothers, they supposed to obey their sons. So woman has never had any rights or freedom or financial independence.
mhm.
Golden Phoenix, even though she was um, a very much traditional girl, but she had her own idea ever since she was a little child. When she was 6 years old, um, her father hired private tutors for her two brothers, but she was denied. She was not allowed to enter the classroom. What she did is when her father went to work, she would carry a little stool and climbing out like on the stools, stood outside of the classroom window and listened into the lecture.
Oh wow.
And then later, when she had girls, her husband, again being a very traditional Chinese man, wouldn't
Mhm,
allow the girls to go to public school because by the time she had two girls and public school China had public schools in big cities, but
mhm.
those girls were denied again. But this time, because education was very important to her, she understood women also need education, so she sent her girls to school behind her husband's back. It's like
Oh,
a secret. Every morning, girls go like wait until her husband go to work, then the girls go to school, and after in the afternoon, girls come back and leave their book bag at their friend's place and came home just pretending they were playing outside. So they managed to do that for a few years in a primary school until her husband passed away. So she
oh,
had her own idea and beliefs. And later, when Japanese came, at first she was just suffering, right? Suffering miserably, just like many other Chinese. But eventually, at one turning point, she decided to fight back, and she joined the communist underground network to fight Japanese.
oh
So that's how
wow.
her character evolved through those events and personal tragedy. And
Wow.
yeah,
Oh wow. So your book has a little bit of Chinese history in it, so we get to learn a little bit about what happened in China, right?
yeah, a lot, actually, a lot.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I did not know, like, in school we learned a little bit about China, but we didn't get the depth of China, like how you're explaining it to me. I didn't know this much about China. Like,
exactly. Especially,
yeah.
the World War II, we all know European theater. We know like how America
Yeah.
joined the fight. But South Pacific, not so much. China is not that much literature at all. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Man, that's crazy. So, Golden Phoenix's decisions are shaped by war and poverty. How did you navigate writing her heartbreak and sacrifices?
I think the most important thing to her in life were her family and was her family and the safety of her children, especially when her husband was dying. She made a promise to him to keep the children safe and the family together, but that was it didn't happen because of Japanese intrusion and then later civil war and communists took over. So there's a saying. I think it sounds like cliche, but I think it has some truth in it. It says if something didn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And so I think that's how she survived on her goal, her lifetime goal to bring her children back. Even though at the end she didn't realize that goal, but that's the goal and the hope kept her alive.
Oh, wow.
And also,
Wow.
of course, also the true love she harvested accidentally. That's also a very important factor that sustained her, I guess, both physically and emotionally through all these hardships.
Oh, okay. So how does Golden Phoenix's relationships with her children shape the emotional core of the history? I mean, of the story.
I think that's a typical mother's love for their children, but she also understands for her country, she need to send her sons to the battlefield. So that is a really hard decision. Well, in China, there's a saying that sometimes a loyalty for one to one's country is in conflict with the piety, filial piety this son has for his parents. So when these two emotions or virtues are in conflict, one has to choose. And Golden Phoenix and her son chosen to fight for their country. So she sent all her three sons to the battlefield, and the only one remained is an adopted son. And I think that's a very tough decision and emotionally really tough. But what do you do when war started? Sometimes stay behind could also mean death, right? Either you fight to survive or you wait to die. So which one you choose, right? But so I guess sometimes one has to be ready to die in order to be alive. And maybe Golden Phoenix was not able to articulate this train of thought, but she understood that's why she must let her sons go. And for her daughters, of course, as even more tenderness because they were girls and they were young. But when her daughters were missing before Japanese came to her hometown, she decided to wait for her daughter's return because people was fleeing the town. And she and her two sons at the time stayed until the last moment when the bomb started falling from sky. That's when they fled. But that was like a huge sacrifice because they almost died. They could all die. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So how many kids did she have?
She has 5 children.
5. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Learning about Chinese history. Wow.
Yeah.
Man. So is it like I'm trying to think of the word. I forgot. Oh well, I'll just go to the next question. If I come back to it, then I'll come back. so how does the theme of survival play out differently for each of the members of the family?
I think for the boys, as I just said, in order for them to survive, they need to fight. They need to join armies. And for the girls, especially for Orchid, the youngest one, for them to survive, they need to belong to organization or belong to a bigger, belong to somewhere. So fortunately, both girls, they were the members of a children's performing arts group, and the Education Bureau of Henan Province decided to evacuate them, like a rescue them from at the dawn of the invasion, without telling the kids. But that's how they survived. So their escaping was hard, was tough, but at least they had teachers and someone looked after them. So survival is different for each person. But when later these two girls were in a school, Orchid, the youngest one, thrived, but the sister, the elder sister, decided to return home because she couldn't adapt the life in the mountains. And that also altered her fate because she suffered at home with her mother and her this adopted brother. They suffered in the hand of the collaborators to the enemy and the Japanese soldiers, like horribly. So they paid the sister paid the price. Mother, she didn't really have any choice, but the elder sister Daisy, she had a choice, but she didn't. She made a wrong choice, wrong decision.
Wow.
And yeah, it's I guess it's to her it's easier. She figured it's easier to survive at home with mom, but it turned out actually it was harder.
Oh wow! Because she had to take care of her and stuff.
So because she was because Japanese came to their family and Daisy was kicked from the top of a flight of stairs to the bottom. That's how she injured her lower back, and so she became crippled for many years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, its consequence is much bigger. Also because she returned home, then eventually she married this young guy, but this young man was a member of the three principal youth league. That was a youth league was established by the nationalists. But after liberation, because nationalists and communists were enemies, so the communists started to persecute anybody who had any affiliation with nationalists. Eventually, her husband, Daisy's husband, was executed by the communists. So one's choice has a big consequence. But we did not know, right? We don't know. When we make a choice at time, we think that's the best choice we can make, giving the information. But it turned out, unfortunately, that is what happened to Daisy.
Oh man. Wow. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced while writing The House Fuller?
I guess the first challenge is English language, because English is my second language. And writing in English in nonfiction is easier than fiction, right? Fiction is extremely hard because in Chinese language, we don't have different tense. We don't have different tenses. We only have present tense. We don't have plural. We say one dog, two dogs, three dogs. Our verbs doesn't change. Our verbs do not change with the subject. We say I do, you do, he do, right? And we use the preposition differently. So it was a huge learning curve. And actually, I ended up have to hire a copy editor twice, just to correct my grammars. All the other freelance editors I hired for years.
Oh man, so your book sounds really interesting, and I would like to read it because I'm interested. I love Chinese culture, so I would like to read about it, the history. So, do you have your book on audiobook yet?
No, not yet, because after this is published, I already start to rewrite and revise and improve, because you always can find ways to improve. So yes. I think I should wait until my second edition is published before make it to an audiobook.
Oh man. I'm definitely gonna buy it. I'm definitely gonna buy it
Yeah.
because so I can read it at work.
Thank you. I
So,
think,
what
yeah,
role does political oppression play in shaping Golden Phoenix's journey?
at the beginning, she was a follower of the communist. Uh,
Oh,
because she was under influence of her two sons. Her twin boys
mhm.
joined the communists, and her eldest son joined the nationalists.
Oh,
So when Japanese intrusion happened in 1937, actually Japanese were in China before that. Japanese was in the northeast China since 1931. But that was allowed by the Chinese government because what happened was when Russian came to China and took a huge, a piece of land from China, and then the Qing dynasty government needed the help from the Japanese to chase out the Russian and chase out Russians. And then the agreement is okay. Once Japanese chase out the Russians, the Japanese were allowed to stay in northeast China.
oh,
That started the whole sequence of events. So Japanese was in northeast East China in the Manchuria area, like they set up their own government. They start to money like get the money from China, like for coal, for metals, for whatever. Then uh, they set up the factories to manufacture weapons, not only other stuff but weaponry. When
mhm,
they had their food solid stand like in that area, that
mhm.
prepared them for the large scale invasion in 1937.
Wow.
So where where I supposed to go? What was the question again? Uh,
Man.
what was the question you were just asked about?
Oh yeah, you answered it. You definitely answered it.
Yeah.
It was about the political oppression. And yeah, you definitely answered it.
Political oppression.
Yeah.
Actually, that happened to one of her twins. Because after communists took over, this twin he used to work as an underground, like as a spy for the communists. But
Really?
after 1949, he was wrongly accused as a traitor and was sentenced to death by his own party.
Oh, dang.
That was a horrific journey, and I don't want to give out everything, but
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, if you read it, I think so. Golden Phoenix being very hopeful, like many Chinese at the time, they put their hope on the communists because nationalists was corrupted. They needed to print money to finance the war. After the war was over, the inflation was skyrocketed. It was like inflation rate was over 4,000 times, like increased 4,000 times in like a couple of years.
Oh,
So
wow.
so Chinese people put all their hope on communists. That's how communists won the civil war because they had the support from Chinese people. So
Oh,
Golden Phoenix being very hopeful, and then what happened to her one of her twins, to her son, and then changed like from hopeful to um, disappointed, then to this despair,
oh.
right? So that's her emotional journey, but the tide was too huge. She couldn't fight it. There's no way. She tried everything to save her son's life, and
Oh,
then I'll leave
okay.
that to the readers to find out eventually what happened
Yeah.
to this son.
I'm really interested. So, what's your favorite scene or moment in the house filler and why?
I guess there's at least a couple. The first one was in a restaurant when Golden Phoenix, she didn't have a residential card because when Japanese was in China, every citizen has to have a residential card with your name and address on it. So
Mhm.
Japanese could check, stop anybody in the street and check your card. For her, they just returned from they were a war refugee. They left their hometown, but later they returned to their hometown. So she just came back. She didn't have a residential card yet. And she was in the restaurant that Master Chen, which Master Chen is a restaurant owner, but her adopted son worked in this restaurant. So when she was there, these one Japanese soldier came in with a rifle, and everybody was scared and frozen. But it turned out that this Japanese soldier start to try to tell these Chinese customers that both like his two brothers were killed already on the battlefield, and his parents were old, like in Japan, nobody looked after them, and he might be killed as well. So the two Chinese customers, two old men, they were brothers. They try to show the sympathy to this Japanese soldier. So basically, the conqueror try show the sympathy to the conquered, right? The victim show the sympathy to the person who, or the army, whoever was like on their land and kill their people. And so I think that's a very moving thing, because I didn't make it up. Thanks to the internet, I was able to buy the photocopies of the newspaper published at the time. And this story, I found it in a newspaper, was published in my grandmother's hometown around that time. So I just moved that thing from, like in the newspaper, this thing happened in a street, at a street vendor, a tea vendor's place. I just moved this into Master Chen's restaurant and put the Golden Phoenix there to witness everything. So I think that was quite touching, quite moving, because there's also lots of people like this Japanese soldier. They were pulled into this war without any control. It's not their intention to come to China, to kill Chinese, to take their land and their assets, but it's like a government, right? The war is always started by the government, by the leaders. Ordinary people like you and me, we never start. We don't want to start a war, and we can. We're not able to start any war.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Then the second thing was touching was when Golden Phoenix's son, this Wu, the one of the twins, were accused as a traitor and was waiting to be sentenced. She tried to find a way to save his life, the son's life, by traveled like 1,000 miles to a different place, because her son used to work with another Chinese like a spy. So this other Chinese spy now become, like after 1949, this person become a vice president of vice minister of economic bureau or something, like somebody like high up. So Golden Phoenix tried to seek his help to save her son, but that was like failed. The person denied to even know her son. And that journey and that thing in the front of the provincial government building and turned away by the guards, it was pretty, heartbroken. Yeah.
So have you went back to go visit your grandmother's like area, like where she used to live? Have you been back and visit?
Yeah, in 2015, I went back to China. Well, I went back to China before that, but 2015, I made a trip to my grandmother's hometown, and literally like walked around the block of where her complex was once stood, because her husband was a builder. So he built this huge complex for their family. And that was eventually taken away by the communists.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and interviewed my relatives and cousins, and that was my research trip.
Man,
Yeah.
wow. Ooh-wee. So what was the most surprising thing you learned during your research, like during your grandmother telling you the story? Like, what was surprising to you?
Actually not from her, because I only met her once when I was like about 4 years old. So most surprising thing is when I realized that the relationship between the romantic relationship between her and this adopted son, which this adopted son is not really related to her by blood, but they were like secret couples, because in China, because she was much older than him, that was considered as a scandal. Like, way back when Chinese man can marry a woman, 20, 30 years younger, but not the other way around.
Oh, wow.
And also before 1949, the Chinese marriage law allowed Chinese men to marry more than one woman. So they will have a first wife and second wife and third wife, or they call, concubines. That was legal before 1949. But no, a woman you can never do that. So it's never equal, right, between man and woman.
Man, I knew that. It reminds me of this movie I watched. I'm trying to think of it. It was a Chinese movie, and this guy had like 4 wives, and I was like, they got 4 wives?
Raising the Red Lantern? Is that Raising the Red Lantern?
No, it's called oh, I forgot. I forget. Dang,
Okay.
I forgot the name of it.
Another Chinese movie called Raising the Red Lanterns. It's really great. That has English subtitle. You can find it out.
It kind of makes me want to look it up now, so I can.
I listened to your episode of The Sleepwalker.
Oh, you did?
Movies.
Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, Raise a Red Lantern. I think it's called Raise a Red Lantern. It was
Joy Luck Club.
No, oh no, okay. Joy Luck Club is more like an immigrant story.
Yeah.
Raise Red Lantern is a Chinese story.
Oh, and what's it called again? I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, Raise the Red Lantern. I think Raise the Red Lanterns. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Wow. So my last and final question before I let you go, are there modern day parallels or lesson from the house filler that you think readers might draw?
Of course, what happened or what was told in the book, like the war, the poverty, the inequality between man and woman, is still happening today, right? It's still existing today. In many areas of this world, there's a child bride. Women are bought and sold every day, and also, in some African tribes, there's something called a female circumcision still happening. So I think, I don't know what the world leaders or the government of those countries, what they're doing, and the tribe leaders and business leaders and religious leaders. I think we need to work together to end those cruelties towards women. Right? In many areas, girls don't have an opportunity to go to school. They're not allowed.
And still in China, they still can't go to school in China?
No, not in China. I said in other parts of the world. It's still
yeah. Yeah, that does still happen. I know in Africa that still happens too.
Yeah. So I think, freedom is never free. I think we have our freedom. Either we pay the price or somebody else pay the price for us. So don't take it as granted, because you may lose it at any time. You could. Yeah.
That's true. I want to thank you so much, Tong Ge, for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me about your book.
Thank you, Brooke. Really, really appreciate this opportunity.
You have a good day, and I'm going to check out your book for sure.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Hey, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for supporting my podcast and for listening to my interview with Tong Ge. So if you would like to purchase her book, there's her book, and it is on her website. It's tongge.com. It's TONG-GE.com, and you can check out her book and buy her book and purchase it and read it. It's very interesting about Chinese culture, so definitely check it out. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope to see you next time for the next interview. Bye.